Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Wasteland 3. Which, guess what happened? That's right, it crashed. Again. And my internet is being all wonky, so I don't know if I'm going to suddenly have an issue because my laptop disconnected from the internet. So now I have to reconnect to the internet. I can't even get my live stream up. It's a freaking pain in the ass. I pay out the ass, mind you, for my internet service. Like, I pay a good chunk of money. So this pisses me off. So, let's try to enter Colorado Springs without it crashing. That's also why I quick saved right before. But I didn't want to travel. Like, I would have spared everybody the the load screen here, except I have a feeling that the second that we appear in downtown Colorado Springs, there's going to be some kind of a dialogue or something's going to happen. So, now the question is now, it was really just the Rangers that were, an issue, but if we're on bad terms with the Marshals and the 100 families, is that going to be a problem now? Because it could be. Yeah, like I said.
If you stand with the Patriarch, then you are against the people. You can't be on both sides.
Hey, it's the Rangers. Just in time to save our butts.
Leave us alone, Rangers. We ain't backing down. We're taking what was took from us.
We understand your concerns, but this rioting isn't like you, Mama. You don't want to kill anybody.
Of course I don't, but I guess you're right. We got fired up when people started calling to storm the Patriarch's palace, but it's gotten out of hand. We don't want innocent folks to get hurt.
Yeah, well, guess what? All your sons are dead.
Family, refugees, stand down. This ain't the way.
Yeah, your sons are dead now.
Sorry, we did what we had to do.
Funny now how Daisy, who had this big issue with us, how all of a sudden, oh, she likes us now.
Hot damn, Rangers. Thanks for the save. That was some smooth negotiating. If I was younger, I'd kiss every one of you. But you'd probably appreciate a warning more than a kiss. But you'd probably appreciate a warning more than a kiss.
Why'd you say it twice?
It was a red-headed woman who riled up these folks, leading what looked like a squad of Rangers. Got the refugees to block the street, then skedaddled towards Market Square. I don't like you much, Rangers. But if you want the Patriarch to honor his deal with you, well, you best keep him alive, huh?
Yeah. So you're not coming with us?
Well, if that redhead is a ranger, then I'd say taking care of her is ranger business. So we're gonna stay here and guard your rear. Godspeed, Rangers.
All right. Everything's closed off. I was hoping to see what was going on inside, but... Paperboy!
Extra, extra! Paperboy threatened by encroaching violence! Okay, fuck this! I'm out of here!
Oh, shit. stuttering frame rate here as we're traveling across this area. Wait, what was that person's? Oh. Refugee Pistolier. Everybody's yelling. Yeah. Oh, did this interrupt the couple that were making out? Yeah, looks like they lost their makeout spot. Ooh, there's traps over there.
Who are you? Go find your own loot.
It's a big city. There's enough loot for all of us.
Sure. I guess so. Take what you need.
Yeah, we weren't gonna kill you or nothing.
Ho! Hey, Ho! Buchanan's gotta go!
Everybody else come over here. All right.
Your reign of terror is over, Buchanan. Time to bury that stupid hammer of yours for good.
I'll bury it in your head, you damn she-cat. You...
Well, shit. Nothing in here, or why is lockpicking impossible? Why would it matter whether or not we can get in there?
Please walk to the exit, folks.
These fighters were astonishingly effective in destroying the exhibits as they savagely killed each other.
If you've got kids, folks, please hold them close until the alert is over.
Alright, door won't open while the alert is active. Oh.
Don't panic, folks. Old Baldy's looking out for you. Hey, folks. Please follow the instructions of museum personnel at all times.
Okay, what am I missing here?
Please walk to the exit, folks.
Oh.
If you've got kids, folks, please hold them close until the alert is over.
Computer screen flashes a red warning. Emergency lockdown. Blast doors locked and elevator functions disabled. To cancel lockdown, please enter admin ID and press cancel. Alright, find a way around the password and cancel the alarm. And nerd stuff. The lights and alarms stop, and the warning on the computer screen stops flashing. In its place is a message. Lockdown canceled. Blast doors unlocked and elevator function restored. Queued commands will now execute. Oh, this is... okay. I thought when I was in the other thing, when I saw something about how the elevator wouldn't work because of a computer in the museum, I thought it meant the museum in Ranger HQ, not this museum. Now this makes sense. Thank you, Administrator. Everything makes sense now. The door is unlocked. You can hear the Patriarch's troops beyond it. Open it, and you will be face to face with him. Yeah, I know. Open the door.
Rangers, about time. Your friend has been giving me some trouble.
We know.
November. How many good folk did you gun down to get here? And all in the aid of this hollow old man?
Huh? You got the job? Awesome. Congratulations. Okay. Kick ass. When do you start? Yeah, no, they're not open. In fact, I don't even know if they're open, if the lobby is open. So I have to call them. I mean, nothing's open. It's after 6 o'clock. So yeah, well, you have to wait till tomorrow, but. Cool. Awesome, dude. Congrats. Love you. Alright. You're calling us killers? You asked us to kill the Patriarch's kids. You murdered half the people at Ranger HQ. This isn't about the Patriarch, this is about Arizona. People are dying there too, and supplies the Patriarch has promised will save them.
And what will he ask for the next time you need help? Will you help him disappear some more protesters? Will you help him kill the Arapaho?
Idealistic fool. You don't know what it takes to keep the peace.
There are other ways of saving Arizona, Rangers. Help me, and we'll find them.
You can't win here, Angie, but if you surrender, we'll ask the Patriarch to be lenient.
Fine. I know I'm gonna die either way, but I'll go quiet if you let the others walk.
Patriarch, if we end the standoff and arrest Colonel Death, will you let the others go free?
You're asking a lot, Rangers. But fine. If it ends this, I'll take her and let the small fry go. As long as they get the hell out of Colorado and know they're dead men if they ever come back.
Yeah.
Fine. I'm putting down my gun. Do what you gotta do.
Oh, that was weird.
So long, Tack, Pete, Brother Thomas. Keep the faith, yeah?
Oh well.
It's done then? Good. With this, my nation is once again secure. You've earned the reward I promised your general. And you will have it. The trucks are already on their way. Now, you have a choice. You can return to Arizona, but you have a home here, if you want it.
Nah, we're gonna stay here. We'll lend a hand where you need it.
Good. It will be good to have you here. There is still much to be done to repair the damage my children have wrought. The road forward is not an easy one. But hopefully we will both live long enough to see the birth of the peaceful, prosperous world we've all been fighting for. Until that day, I will make sure that Colorado hails you as the heroes you are. Thank you, Rangers. Thank you.
They don't know in Arizona. Oh, it's a song.
If we saved them or betrayed them, if we did the job we went for or we failed. Hard times in Arizona with the Rangers and the settlers giving ground.
This is a cool outro. Singing it instead of just reading it.
And it seemed we'd lose the good life that we found. Then Buchanan made his offer, find my kids and I will help you save your land.
One thing that's annoying, there was only like 15 minutes left in the game when the game crashed earlier.
Colorado, praying that he'd be an honest man. In Denver we found valor, a son who didn't live up to his name. He turned against his father, siding with the old man's rivals seeking fame. Though these rivals tried to stop us, we captured valor like we said we would. And brought him home to Daddy, who made it pretty clear just where he stood.
So I imagine this song would change depending on what you did.
Then we made our way to Aspen to find Buchanan's misbegotten son. The sicko named Victory, who pulled the legs off humans just for fun. It wasn't easy fighting, the urge to make him pay for what he'd done. But we brought him back alive, locked him up to the relief of everyone. On the track halfway to Kansas, we found Buchanan's daughter making plans to conquer conquer Colorado with the help of desperados, gangs, and clans. Though she swore she'd not surrender, we promised not to end her, come what may. So we shot the folks around her, then bound her and we took her from the fray. We went back to Buchanan, we told him we'd done everything he asked. It was his turn to deliver so we could save our Arizona home at last. Though we thought he might renege or demand we plead and beg on our knees, he made good on every detail and paid up just as pretty as you please.
Cool.
They don't know in Arizona what we did in Colorado on the trail. If we saved him or betrayed him, if we did the job we went for or we failed. But when the winter turns to spring, the news newcomers bring, they'll know.
Patriarch was true to his word. Every few months, he sent a supply convoy across the Rocky Mountains to the Rangers in Arizona. Of course, the convoys didn't always survive the trip, but they were enough to keep the Rangers alive and get them back on their feet in Arizona. Meanwhile, you continued to keep the peace in Colorado, and you had no shortage of new recruits. Every ambitious young person in Colorado wanted to be part of the Rangers. With 2 bases of power, the Rangers can dream of one day expanding their reach across the West. Angela Death and her team were officially declared dead. General Woodson held a small memorial service in her honor. After that, her name was never spoken again. The last of the original Rangers was gone. Well, you know, she kind of is dead to us anyway. Oops. I don't know what that was about to say. In Colorado Springs, Patriarch soldiered on, clinging to power even as his body failed him. He stubbornly refused to name an error. As the Patriarch's health declined, you became indispensable to him, and your influence grew. When the Patriarch finally dies, it'll be the Rangers who decide who takes his place. In Denver, oil drilling came to an end. Because you destroyed the Gippers, the cities and towns of Colorado were left without a reliable source of fuel. Whoops. Your actions at the Machine Commune convinced the robots to take a chance on humanity by welcoming human settlers into the airport. Denver is now a safe haven for those with nowhere else to go, run with inhuman kindness. The Reagan AI remained in the MI Tower, sad and alone, forever calling for his beloved Nancys to take him home. Well, well, well. Led by the Gift, the Breathers withdrew into the Rocky Mountains. They kept their distance from the people of Colorado, moving higher and higher into the mountains as generations passed. In time, the Breathers became a legend to the people of Colorado. Some said they were evolving into a new form of humanity. Others didn't believe that they ever existed at all. The 100 families reclaimed the old resort town of Aspen, but they never held a meeting there again. Too much blood, they said, and too many bad memories. After their humiliating defeat at the hands of the Rangers, the gangs of the Savage Council fled back to the plains. Within a year, most of the survivors were dead or enslaved by rivals. But the Savage Plains got their name with good reason. Everyone knew that other gangs would rise, and eventually, they'd cast their eyes on Colorado again. The Patriarch tried to rebuild his relationship with his daughter, Liberty. He removed her from the Ranger prison and brought her to his palace, though he kept her shackled at all times. She never spoke a word to him. Day after day, she sat calmly across the table at every meal, or at the back of his hall when he received petitioners, regarding him in silence. Though his bodyguards fear for his safety, the Patriarch continues to insist that he can win her over, and that he's not in any danger. Flab and his monster army maintained control of the Bazaar, an unexpected island of stability in a region remade by you and your team. Flab, after all, was a survivor. He'd survived the Patriarch, the Rangers, and he'd survive whatever was still to come. Impressed that Team November had kept their promise to the Patriarch despite everything that had happened, Quan joined them full-time and became their chief liaison with the Marshals. Cool. With things with the Patriarch finally settled, Lucia decided to remain a Ranger, continuing to patrol and keep the peace, and to serve as their liaison to the 100 families. After years of loyal service, the Rangers retired Morningstar and allowed him to drive his Kodiak shell on his long-dreamed-of journey to rediscover America. No one knows where he went or how far he got, but there probably aren't any communists there anymore. Disappointed that the Patriarch remained in power after he left Team November, Ironclad Cordite did as he promised to do and took the gangs east, where he at last began his bloody campaign to rule all of Kansas. Returning back home to Arizona, Pizzepi helped the Rangers distribute the supplies from Colorado, and continued to rise in the ranks of the organization in the years that followed. Kicked out of the Rangers after the resolution of the Patriarch's mission, Fishlips went back into the wastes and resumed leadership of the Hardheads. What happened to him after that is unknown. We kicked him out. Trying to eat people, probably. After things resolved, the Rangers noticed Scotchmo was no longer with them. They searched every bar in Colorado Springs but never found him. Some say he's been seen drinking in saloons in Kansas and points east. But these rumors are unconfirmed. Are we going to find out what happened to the crazy man that was in the prison? With that, the story of Team November comes to an end. For good or ill, you changed Colorado forever, and its people will live with the consequences. But the story of the Rangers goes on. Whoop, hip, whoop, hop, hip. That was weird. Do we have a kind of like continuing stuff to do after all that? No.
As I went down in the valley to pray, studying about the
all right, well, that's that. All right, guys. So, final thoughts on the game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Only serious complaints about the game is just is mainly the stability issues. Like the crashing, really aggravating. But I mean, there's worse things that I could have dealt with. That was basically just an annoyance, but it wasn't game breaking. There's only a couple times where I would restart the game and then it would crash soon after. It only happened a couple times. For the most part, it would be like, if I was on here for like 90 minutes or more, I was risking it crashing. And usually it was during a loading screen. So like that's when it tends to have issues. Loading screens, the other complaint. Just because it, like, there's every single time you're going from one area to another, you have to go through a loading screen, and those loading screens are long. Again, it's more of an annoyance. It's not game breaking. Beyond that, I think the only thing that I would sort of complain about, but not really a complaint so much as I wish that I could have done more with all of the characters. Like, I wish that each companion, each NPC companion that you got with you, like Fish Lips and Ironclad, Cordite, and everybody else, like, I wish that each one of them had their own story. That there was, and I don't mean so much to their own story, but I wish that there was like a series of missions that you would have to go on with each one of these characters. I shouldn't say have to, but that you would have like the option to go on a whole long run of missions with each one of these people. I mean, considering, who did we have? We had Quan, we had Lucia, we had Scotchmo, we had Pizzepi, Fish Lips, Ironclad. That's 6. Am I missing somebody? I thought there was a 7th. But at any rate, like, there was only like a half dozen or so companions. And Lucia was really the only one who had like a series of missions that were directly related to her, but they were also super optional. Like, we were going to talk to her father whether she was in our group or not, and we didn't even see him after we finally found him. So it was just a little bit of dialogue between the two, and that was resolved. Now, each one of these characters could have been fleshed out a lot better if you had a series of missions that were put together as a story for each one of them. Because then you could have more time with each one of those characters and really, get to use them more often. Like, I didn't use Scotchmo really at all. Barely used Fish Lips. Barely used Cordite. I used Quan pretty much the entire time because he was basically my other reliable, gun. Lucia and Pizzepi were the ones that were mostly like flipped back and forth. Now, if I wanted to play this game again and be more like a bunch of bad guys, I would probably have Fish Lips and Cordite with me all the time. But again, those guys are both like predominantly melee fighters, so that's kind of goofy to have 2 melee guys with you. I mean, I could build them to be more than that, but still. So that's something I wish that they did with this game. And maybe in the future, maybe there'll be DLC, that'll add missions to people, or, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. From Wasteland 2, I don't know what they added from its original release, so I don't know if there was ever really DLC or anything like that. I think there was, but I'm not sure. Like any significant DLC, I mean, like story DLC, or if it was just like, I don't know, patches or whatever the hell they added to it. I don't really know. Made it some parts more difficult or smooth or whatever. But I think that ultimately that would be something I really, really wish they did with this game. Because that was the thing with Wasteland 2. Was like we had.
Your dreams were your ticket out.
And I hope this isn't like.
Welcome back to that same old place you laughed about.
Are you just
Names have all
welcome back,
changed
Cotter?
since you hung around, but those dreams have remained
I
and
think it
they've
is.
turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead you?
Hold on, I gotta hear this.
Where we need you. We tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Oh my god, I can't believe they're actually doing this song too.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We always could spot a friend.
It's too
Welcome back. And I smile when I think how it must have been. I know what a scene you were learning in. Was there something that made you come back again? What could ever lead you? Here where we need you.
All right, so anyway, I think that's like the one thing I wish that I really, really wish that they had done was focus on these other side characters. Because like in Wasteland 2, I felt it was the same thing. Like we had all these extra characters. I mean, there was a ton of them in Wasteland 2. There were a ton of extra characters. But the real issue was we had all these extra characters and I barely used anybody. The main problem with that was they weren't leveling up as your other characters were leveling up. So there was no reason to use anybody. That if you weren't using somebody for a while, they'd suddenly be like 10 levels below your main characters, and then you wouldn't want to take them with you. Here, at least, they leveled them up. Every time my group went up levels, everybody that was back at the headquarters were leveling up. So that was good. It kept everybody usable. It kept all of those side characters, like, you know, they were strong enough that you'd be able to bring them back in at any point. Okay. But the main problem, like I said, is that I don't have a reason to use any of them. So, like, we have Fish Lips. We have, like, let's just say him, for example. We have Fish Lips, right? Well, I already have a melee character, so I don't need the guy. Like, I literally have zero reason to have the guy with me. So, you know, what's the point? So he basically became useless. Now, all these guys, it really depends on how you want to build your squad. So let's say I wanted a whole bunch of, or if I didn't build, instead of a melee guy, say I built a big guns character, and I didn't have any melee characters. Well, then, yeah, then it would be helpful to have that guy. But it shouldn't all be dependent on how you build your ranger team. It shouldn't be all dependent on whether or not you need the type of character that person was. Like if you needed someone with small guns, or if you needed somebody with melee abilities, or if you needed, you know, like it shouldn't be dependent on that. I want to care more about the character than the initial, you know, the initial introduction to them. So like really with Fish Lips, it was the initial time you run into him that you learn a little bit about the guy, and then he's on your team, and then it's just little commentary, side commentary when you encounter him in Ranger headquarters, like him talking about eating people and whatnot, you know, like some, you know, humorous conversations between him and your other Rangers. But that was such a like that doesn't really give you much need or desire to use that character in the game. Whereas, since he was, the leader of the Hardheads, well, what if there was a whole thing that was like, okay, so he was leader of this gang, but what if instead of wiping out his gang just to make him, join you, what if after he joined you, he was trying, there was some kind of a story where it's like he wanted to establish his gang, but they could be like some kind of a security force against like Liberty's people or against Scar collectors or whoever. And now what you could do is you can help him establish his hardheads in like whatever town or something like that, and you help them beat like a local Scarhead group or whatever, Scar collectors group, and so there's a story there. And then whenever you have fish slips in your group, like let's say there's areas that you might want to try to slip through that would require some kind of a skeezy guy like fish slips, who has a rapport with other Savage Land gangs and stuff, and like so having him in your group for certain missions would be paramount. Like you really need him with you, not just for dialogue, but like for an entire option. Like you can either fight your way through all these guys, or you can have him with you, and instead of fighting through all this crap, all these guys, like you have him with you, and then maybe depending on how long you've been working with him, if you've built up a good enough rapport with him that like, hey, he can now get these guys to kind of like join his hardheads instead of whatever group they were with, the Godfishers or the Scar Collectors or whatever, and then instead of having to fight all those guys, they join you and then you fight off these other, just give us reasons for having these people in your group. That's just an example. Like Lucia going after the guy, the Dorsey who directly was responsible for killing her family. I mean, ultimately it was like her father started all that shit. We find this out later on. But that could have been just like one example. We're playing with Lucia. We have her with us. We can't do these missions unless we have her with us to go after that particular Dorsey, because that's the whole thing. She is hell-bent on finding this guy, hunting him down, and getting vengeance for her dad. Like, it could have started with that kid Isaac Reed, I think his name was, or Isaiah Reed, whichever it was, her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. Or guy that was courting her, whatever exactly. But that could have been step one in that chapter, in that particular, branching story. And we could have gone from that and then gone after that Dorsey who killed her mom and brother, and let that be like, just that was Lucia's story. So we have her with us the entire time we're going through this. And then we have other moments later on where we confront her father that, like, yeah, we want her with us when we have that confrontation. Like, or if she wasn't with us, that we can bring him back to the Ranger HQ and to the brig, and then we can go either back to Ranger's headquarters and, Lucia greets us, and then she wants us to meet her down in the brig, and then we see the conversation between her and her father, or the next time that we bring her into our group, that's the first thing she brings up, that, or whatever. Just give us something. Because otherwise, like I said, the result was I literally only kept, for instance, Quan. I only kept Quan in my group the entire time because Quan was super useful in terms of his combat. He was the other, guy using an automatic weapon, and between my main character, my leader, and Quan, like, they were the ones who were doing the most consistent, like, automatic weapon damage. And that's all good, but there was really, other than Quan making comments here and there, I had no other real reason to have him in my group. It was only because I needed his certain skills. Like, he had kiss ass, which I needed. So, like, okay, so I got to keep him in my group because he has that skill. Not keep him in my group because of story content. And that's what I really, really wish they did with this game. Now, that said, that didn't ruin the game for me. It's just more I think they could have done to make the game even that much better. But I thought the story was great. You know, it's definitely replayable. Because there's stuff that, like, shit, you know, like the Gippers. What would have happened if I fought the Godfishers and helped the Gippers and didn't, you know, turn my back on them after all? You know, what if I let the Reagan AI go into Vic or Valor, whichever one it was, Valor, I think. And, you know, what would have happened? I would like to play it again and find out. But fun game, great tactical, you know, RPG. Definitely going to be playing this again on my own time and going over the options I didn't take this time around. But like I said, super fun. I highly recommend it. So that'll be it for me today. We will now go on to Outer Worlds, and we will work on that DLC, which I've only got 2 episodes so far, but we will carry on with that. And then after that, I don't know. We'll see where we get to. Like, at the point that I finish that game, we'll see what's next. So, anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the game. I hope you enjoyed the series, those of you that actually watched it. And, of course, I hope that you're all out there healthy and safe. And in these crazy times that you're remaining smart instead of being scared of the world. So, if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe, hit the notification button, do all the YouTube stuff, and until the next time, as always, peace.